Story Chat with John Fornoff, the art and passion of storytelling. Here's your host, Brian Bullabush.
Hi, I'm John Fornoff, as you probably figured out by now, since you might have been listening for a while, or maybe you just tuned in, or you're just watching this for the first time. And I've got a special guest I can't wait to share with you. Brian is off today, so he's working on, I don't know if I can tell what he's working on. He's working on something for a really cool big company that does superhero movies. So that's enough of a hint. So he's working on that right now, which is really exciting and taking up a lot of his time. But so he'll be gone for the next, this time and the next time. So, but he's faithfully editing, which I really appreciate. So Brian, thank you very much for working behind the scenes to put this together. Brian's been a huge help. He got me started with this podcast, and I'm always just grateful for him getting me started with Story Chat. And hope this is the number one thing we want to do here. If we have a working verb that we have for this show, for Story Chat, it's to encourage. We want to encourage you with your writing. If you're a pro, you've been at it for a while, and you just need a different perspective, or you're kind of at a maybe a stagnant part or whatever, we're here to help you. If you're just beginning and you can't get started, we're going to help you there. If you're stuck, everything starts with an ST. I like alliteration. So if you're stuck or stagnant or have trouble starting, we're here for you to encourage you. So that's what we do here at Story Chat. And I can't wait to share with you. He's right here. You can see him. So it's not like reveal the curtain or whatever. He's been sitting here watching us. So my friend, there we go. Okay. Robert Liparulo is an amazing writer, best-selling author. He former investigative journalist, and he's a best-selling author of 7 acclaimed thrillers, and these for adults. And he's got a 6-book series called Dreamhouse Kings, which is amazing. We had a JD Sutter on as our guest here a while back, and JD the subject was Dreamhouse Kings on his podcast. And so it's an adventure series for kids. They're making movies out of these books, which is really exciting. And he's working on, right now, you're working on an original political thriller with Andrew Davis, who I worked with. Oh, Chris, I was not a writer, I was a PA, but I work with him too. Okay. Yeah. I got his coffee. No, actually, I didn't get his coffee. I wasn't that high up. But I tell you something about Andrew Davis, and you found this out, Bob, and I got to introduce you. But anyway, I just want to get talking. But Andrew was an amazing director that went up through the ranks. So he was a cameraman, then a DP, and then became a director. But he had a heart for his crew, and his crew loved him, including we all loved him. He took time to talk to us, as opposed to other directors who think very, very much of themselves. Andrew is very much a people person. And I said, when I become a director, I want to become like Andrew. And so in my world of audio drama, that's what I do as a director. I want to encourage others and treat each one as a VIP. So speaking of VIPs, here is Robert Liparulo. Good to have you with us, man.
Thank you, John. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, I'm great excited to have you here. Oh, man. And Bob is a thriller writer, so this is a thrill to have him on. So it's a Christian thrill, since he's a Christian thriller. No, actually, you don't. Oh, I want to talk about that real quick. Do you call yourself a Christian writer, or a writer who happens to be Christian? There's always a controversy.
A writer who happens to be Christian.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I found that if you say like a Christian writer, it's almost making whatever I write into a Christian genre. And yes. I don't think that Christian stories should be a genre in and of themselves.
Amen. And why is that? And I already have an answer. But why? Yeah. What do you think we shouldn't be having in?
Several reasons, but as God plays out in my life every day, I think He can play out in any story with any character every day. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't need to be, okay, we're making this box. We're just basically saying, hey, here's a story. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons that I wanted to really get into thriller writing is I couldn't find thrillers that didn't necessarily, now I don't mean to categorize all thrillers, but mm-hmm. a lot of thrillers often kind of insulted my Christian sensibilities. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to write something that was just as action-packed, using weapons, having bad guys, doing all that, without the things that I didn't want to read. So I wanted to write the thrillers that I wanted to read. And it just so happens to be, yeah, I'm a Christian. I want to read thrillers. I just don't. Oftentimes, for example, there's a lot of sex in thrillers, and it's almost like people think that has to be. You have to throw something like that in there. I don't think that's true. So, I don't mind romance. I don't mind, will they, won't they, in terms of coming together and being a couple or whatever. I would just rather read an action scene where everybody has their clothes on.
I hear you. And a quick testimony here. I've read Bob's books, and I haven't read every single one of them, but the ones I've read, oh wow! I mean, the emphasis is on the word thriller. It's like page turning. It's like, wow, what just happened? And then he did stuff. I think it was it's Deadfall. I've read about 3 or 4 of them. I remember one. It's like, I'm reading, I won't tell you which one it is, so I won't do a spoiler, but I'm reading along this great story. It's like, I'm really engaged with this character, and it's like, I want to believe in this hero, and he's going his story, I'm following, and all of a sudden he gets shot. Oh no, that's awful. And he dies. It's like, what? I've never heard that happen. It's like the hero died. It's like, wait, you're just messing with my mind. You don't do that. It's like Bob did it. Bob does some really cool stuff in his writing. It's captivating. It grabs you, and you're like, and it's very well researched. His stuff, when it's all based on true stuff that happens. I mean, he goes deep into research. So all the technology, all the weapons, all the techniques, those are all well researched. That's why it's so believable. And it's some great stuff.
Thank you.
Real quick, just grab one of your stories that was like, it's with give me a log line or something, some little taste of it.
Oh, Germ.
Yeah. Very appropriate for
that
today.
One actually had a couple log lines, but one that I like was "Pray the assassins get you first," and I love that because it's like, what can be worse than assassins? But basically, that's what the story is about. It's about, and this was written 15 years ago, before it's more plausible today. Wow, I've been catching some of the news that's been coming out that supports that story, but it's about a guy who finds a way to implant DNA in the Ebola virus, and then he releases it just into the public, and unless your matches that, you get a cold or something like that. And then it's transmitted, and it spreads. When it finds the person with the matching DNA, it turns into full-blown Ebola and kills that person. So it's just a wicked method of killing.
Wow. And you talk about how appropriate that feels today with COVID and everything. It's just, I was thinking about that. I was thinking back to Germs, like, wow, this is like the headlines today. You're researching that 15 years ago. Yeah. It just to give you some quick background. Bob has been a great friend to me. And he's in Colorado. I'm in LA now. And we were just talking before we got together with you guys, how much we miss our talks together. We just, I talked about this on the seminar we do, that I used to fantasize about us being like Tolkien and Lewis. I had these grand fantasies, and it's like, it's just like, I'm not sure which one is, but I guess you're Lewis. I don't know, but whatever you want to be. But it's like, I just love our talks about story, about life, and we just had a lot of fun. So I'm so glad we get to share that with people now. One thing that Bob taught me. Can I talk to you in the third person?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll talk about Bob. Okay, everybody, we'll talk about Bob. All right. One thing about that Bob taught me was about using music as you write. So that's a little thing before we jump into what makes great story and that kind of stuff. By the way, I asked Bob, what do you want to talk about today? And he says, I want to talk about everything. It's like, okay, we only have 30 minutes, but we'll talk about everything. One thing he taught me was, I'll refer to you now as you. One of the things you taught me was about music. You said, if you listen to movie soundtracks, it adds a whole other element as you're writing. And it's true. When I'm listening to movie soundtracks and I'm writing, it's like the little girl picked the flower, jump, boom, the music sounds epic. It's like, wow, it draws the story out of you. But then you told me something the other day where you take it one step further. It's not just movie soundtracks, which I listen to, like on Pandora. I've got, different ones. You also you categorize them almost like John Williams would do. Tell me how you do that with music.
I usually find a song that captures kind of the tone of the scene that I'm writing or the character that I'm writing. So I'll have different music for different characters or different scenes. And then when I go to that character, most of my character, most thrillers have multiple POV characters. Mostly that's because we want to see what the bad guy's doing so that when the good guy comes in, we know there's something waiting for him. So that's why most thrillers have multiple POVs. So if I'm writing one POV, I've got one music going on. And if I write the other or another, I've got something else going on. So it puts me in the mood for that character.
So each character has their own theme. Yeah.
Right. Each character has its own theme music. And usually I'll pick a different song for like an action scene. And then I have another action scene later. I'll choose a different song for that that maybe has similar beat or similar rhythm to it. But if I have to go back and work in that scene, edit that scene, for example, I'll put that same music on and it puts me right back in that scene. I know where I was. So to me, that's important because I like passion that I'm writing with to in the prose that I end up with. And that helps me get back into that particular prose and not edit it to death. One thing about music that I like is there's a cadence to sentence structure. And you can feel that cadence.
Yes.
When I'm hearing music, I'm like, okay, if this were a movie, at this moment, there would be this upbeat or there'd be this crescendo or something. And by listening to that while I'm writing, it's a lot easier for me to find that beat, to find that cadence of that sentence or that paragraph or that scene. And I know when I'm off when I'm not hitting those beats. So, and I mean literally music beats as opposed to beats of a story. But it helps me in so many ways.
That's so cool. And we haven't talked about this, about dialogue is having a cadence, having a rhythm to it. That's fascinating. I love dialogue. Yeah. And I love the rhythm of it, the cadence of it, and how you can write in parallel. I love writing in parallel. So if it's subtle, but it's sort of like you think you're at that, you're actually a bump, or so it just has a rhythm or parallel to it.
Yeah.
Or it just ends with a thump or scene ender kind of feel. I just love doing that. Real quick, just to let you know, as you're listening, everybody, Bob has agreed to help us with. He's part of. We did the story seminar called The Art of the Start. So Bob was a part of that. And then coming up, we're going to be doing this, whatever time this podcast gets out there, we're going to be doing these several times a year because we're getting some good response. We intentionally started small because we work out the bugs, but I can feel it growing. It's so fun. So anyway, that's coming up. Art of the Start. We'll do another one, and also something called Launch. And that's like some coaching. And Bob, I want to show them just a little snatch here real quick, just for fun, before we jump into what are you most passionate about as a professional writer. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see if this works. And can you see my screen, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good thing, because if not, I'd be in trouble. Okay, because Brian's not here. John, it's okay. You can push the button. You can do it all by yourself. Oh no, Brian, I will. Yeah, I can do it. Okay, so anyway, this is I'm going to show you just a little thing. This is what I'm so excited about this class. I love teaching. It's so fun coaching. So if you guys can sign up, Art of the Start is free, and we pack everything in there. And Bob's been part of that. And then we do Launch, which is like we coach you step by step, like through a proven system that shows you how to write. But I want to show you, I'm putting together a class right now. This is brand new. So this is something we're going to do coming up. I'm going to show you this. Here it is coming up. Okay. And this is called subtext. And I'm going to have the word. Okay. Oh, that's a different one. That's Friedrich. Anyway, then the word appears. Watch this, Bob. Were you excited by that? Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I get excited about little things. So anyway, subtext, the secret weapon for great storytelling. We're going to talk about that in an upcoming class. So anyway, I have fun putting together the graphics. So I write out the story, the class, and then I put together graphics in that way. So anyway, just having fun. So that's coming up. And Bob's a part of this too. You're going to be doing a cameo appearance as you want to, and then you're going to be doing also talking about crafting the ride of a story, which is another a fancy title for story structure. So you're coming up on that, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep, that'll be yeah.
Okay, so I just had to share that before I forgot, and just remind you, if you get a hold of Art of the Starter launch, I'd love to have you on there. So there's that. Bob, one other thing you did when you're talking about character, you're talking about music. And hang in there, guys. There's actually a thought process that ties all this together. We're not sure what it is yet, but I'm going to find it. Okay. No, it's coming. It's coming. It's generally what do you do as a professional writer? I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But some tips. One is music. That's a wonderful thing to help you as you're writing. Another thing I know you do, which is kind of cool, is I've seen this. You have a board. I don't know what you do now. Maybe you do this electronically now. But when you have your main character, you go online and you find a photo of that character and you say, okay, that's my character. And then there's my antagonist. It looks like this. Tell me about that process, just how you like visualize those characters and how that helps you as you're writing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the things that all writers need to do is not write about themselves. Yes, you know, you're in every character a little bit, but you can't. I mean, every character cannot be you. Otherwise, you know, multiple books are going to have the same sounding character, same type of character.
Unless you have multiple personalities.
So, yeah, multiple personalities, and I in the same person. Yes.
Sorry.
If I get too dark, let me know. I'll have to open the blinds. It's getting dark fast here.
Okay.
Anyway.
I thought you meant darken your subject matter. It's
no,
like, oh wow, that'll go another place. Well, okay.
Because
your thrillers can be dark. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, John's gonna think I'm talking about dark subjects. Okay. I pretty much know my characters really well. I don't look for pictures until I know my character. You know, I know how he thinks. You know, pretty much his background. You know, how he behaves in certain situations, and then I'll go look for the picture of somebody. And I might go to casting websites and just look at headshots. I might go to IMDb and just kind of scroll through it. I usually don't have a actor in mind. It's more his image, an image that I'm looking for. And I'm at a point now where I have a collection of, folders of characters. And usually it's like if I'm watching a movie or I see a still frame of somebody, and I think that's an interesting looking character, I'll clip that and throw it in my envelopes or my folders of characters. And I'll label it like, you know, 50-year-old guy with a beard or something like that. If I have a story in mind for him, of course, I'll flag that. But I'm looking for just a few pictures of the same person, if I can find a few. That really, to me, physically, they represent who that person is in the story. And so I make a contact sheet with my characters. And that way, as I'm writing, I kind of glance over at the contact sheet and just remember, okay, that's that guy. And, you know, he's kind of, you know, and I made one of I like Elmore Leonard's 10 Rules of Writing. It's, you know, short list. One of those, and he doesn't follow his own rules usually, but didn't. He's dead now. But one of his rules is don't describe characters. Let the you know, unless it's important that his or her physical description plays a part in the story, which sometimes they do. But write and as kind of vague or ambiguous as possible, and that way the reader gets to put in his or her mind what the character looks like. An example would be if I it's a beautiful woman, my idea of a beautiful woman may not be another person's idea. So it's a lot better just to say it's a beautiful woman. And if I went into detail, that person might be going, that doesn't sound beautiful to me, or whatever. A physical description from the picture. Most of the pictures that I end up clipping and putting in my contact sheet, the picture represents more of a personality. So
Okay,
I'm really, you know, so if it's a stern, you know, if it's my main protagonist and he's a pretty tough guy, I'll find a picture of a guy who looks tough, you know, and I won't describe him necessarily, but I'll just look at him and go,
more of a personality thing. Okay, so
yeah.
So what I found our theme, by the way. It's what can we do? What are some tips you normally wouldn't think of that could help writers? And I've got and we don't. I mean, we can talk about anything we want. We can talk about everything, but I'm thinking there's some really good stuff. So we talked about music. We talked about putting up photos. What's something else that you wouldn't find necessarily in a book, you know, because, you know, here are the 7 steps, here are the story beats you always hit. We know those, you know, you can get that in a book, you can get in a seminar, that kind of thing, or a webinar. But what are some other things to help people as they're writing that would help them? I'll throw one out, is I know you do this as well, is research. And by the way, I'm kind of giving you some time to think of some other things, but as far as research goes, Bob is one of the best. Whoa, what was that? Oh, okay. Okay. So anyway, Bob's one of the best researchers. Okay, no problem. Bob's one of the best researchers I know. And we talked about that earlier, where he'll go into deep dive research into technology. I've got another friend, a writer friend, Kathy Buchanan, and when she writes about 1800s Germany, whatever, she'll get a map out of 1800s Germany, and she'll study the technology of that day. So what did they eat back then? What did they, you know, what was a typical day for them? So doing your research is another thing that makes things come alive. So there's some things. So we want to throw out some things you wouldn't normally find in a book or in a seminar that could help you. So music, photos, research. What else, Bob? What some other things could help as people are writing here? And this is helping you as a pro or as a beginner. I'm picking up stuff from Bob too. Here's another one. I'll throw one out. Get with a writing friend who is at your level or above. Okay, like Bob. Bob's my friend, and so we encourage each other in our writing. And he mostly gives me ideas. I don't know if I've given him any ideas, but I'm helping with audio drama. There's a world I've introduced Bob to, so I've taught him what I know of that. But it's like, so we hone each other's iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another, and we don't stab each other, we sharpen each other. Is a difference. Yeah. But just getting with another writer friend will encourage you in your writing, and find some. And it's always important to have somebody to pour into, somebody behind you when you're getting to mentoring. But right now, as you're starting, find somebody who's at least at your level, ideally like ahead of you, and then you can encourage each other on. So that's a good tip. Go ahead, Bob. Anything else?
If I can add to that, John, I would say that's different from a critique partner. Yep. It's not somebody who's reading your work. It's somebody who's encouraging you regardless of what you're writing. Yes. And just an aside about critiques, I've always recommended, and there are various different thoughts on this. I've recommended finding a critique partner, who's not really a partner at this point, but find somebody who is a reader, not necessarily a writer. Because really you're writing for readers, not other writers. Tend to, instead of saying doesn't work, they will criticize something because it's not the way they would have written. Now the good part of having a writer who critiques your work is they often will know why something, so they can say, okay, it's not working because this character is kind of flat in this area. Will tell you, oh, this isn't working. They may not know why, but you go back, you have to do a little more research, a little more digging with a reader who's critiquing your work as opposed to a writer. But I think it's more beneficial to have a reader critiquing your work as opposed to another writer. just because of what I said.
That's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's really good. I was thinking of something else too, as you're talking about just different things that will help you, just little things that you normally wouldn't find in a book, just some tips and that kind of thing. Another thing is finding a comfortable place to write, where you're comfortable, your environment, where you just that kind of stuff. Trying to think.
Oh, John,
yeah,
I've
go
got
ahead.
one.
What's that? Go ahead.
I've got one. Act out your characters.
You do this. You taught me that. Tell me more about that, because story chat, not necessarily people, not everybody's there at lunch. So tell them about. I was fascinated about that. Tell me how you did it.
I tend to be my character for at least a month before I start writing.
Yeah.
But I think even if you don't have time for that, or if they're minor characters, at least spend a few hours or a day being that character, depending how important the character is in the story. And he or she should be important to that story, or get rid of him. Walk. How does that character walk? How does that character, turn his head when he hears, something startling off to the side, or whatever. Doing that tells you much more about that character than just his physicality. It tells you just why does a person walk a certain way? Why does a person, what does a person observe? So really what you want to do is put that character's mind in your mind. And maybe if you go into an area where a location that is going to be in your story, what is the character noticing that you maybe wouldn't have noticed? Is he the type of guy who would notice all the security cameras, or who's guarding the place? Is he the type of guy who's watching people? Is he the type of guy who wants to know where the exit is in case he has to get out of there? Wow. You can tell I write thrillers.
Oh, yeah. Well, this explains a lot about. This explains, like, when I went to Walmart one time and you're
John.
Okay, this explains why you were at Walmart one time and you're crouching by the frozen vegetables. Now I know why. What you were doing there. I was very concerned with you, especially you had a weapon in your hand by the frozen peas. So now it explains everything. You're acting your part. By the way, I was curious. By the way, we got just a couple minutes. But what about villains? I mean, do you get into them too? I mean, what do you do for that? Is it kind of? Yeah.
I've gone through very intense times of being my character and learning to kind of fake it later. But yeah. I mean, I went up to a friend of mine and punched him, and I wanted to see his reaction. And that was when I was being a bad guy. And I didn't punch him hard. It was more the surprise I was after. And it did surprise him.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fun hanging around Bob. You never know. That's just so fun.
It wasn't you. I didn't.
I was going to remember that one. We've had generally friendly encounters. Okay. Generally. Okay. Oh, man.
Well, and it was out of the blue. And it was, sometimes I'm a pretty friendly guy. You're a friendly guy. We don't get into conflict.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to create that conflict just to feel how it is.
Oh, yeah. Well, theology we do theological, which is fun. I mean, again, a good-natured way, yeah. But it's not, usually don't come to fists talking about theology.
Right.
Premillennial. Okay. It doesn't, Anyway. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up, but any other thing and this has been fun. So we found the theme. Okay, thank you for hanging in there. It always kind of rounds us like, oh, this is what we're going to talk about. And, sometimes it's a story chat. So we talk about story and we talk about things in general, but Bob wanted to talk about everything. So it's like, okay, let's see what we do. What we wound up with is, here's pro tips you will not find, professional writing tips you won't find in a book. All right. And so, I'm trying to think of anything else before we close, because this has been really good. I've learned a lot. Just learned a lot from you too. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Maybe go and watch a movie that you really like, and kind of while you're watching it, feel that pacing, feel that, for what makes you excited about them. One thing that a lot of books don't talk about, and you don't see it often in writers' seminars, is you can get so much from movies. And the reason I like movies as a learning tool for writers is they're condensed. And it's really easy to look back on a movie, 2-hour movie, and say, here are the beats that I liked. Here, what was the one thing that really grabbed me from this? And you can get a sense of, that's what I want in this scene, or that's what I want in my story. And you can watch 5 or 6 movies that you really, really touch you before you dive into the story. And it's just, there's nothing wrong with getting, because you're not trying to steal from a movie or even write like a movie. You're trying to get the emotional feeling of that movie. And it's so easy to see it when you have it in that condensed form. And it's harder with a book. Say I want to read my favorite book and go, okay, I want to write like that, or I want a story that is that impactful. Sometimes it's not easy to go, okay, what are the beats of that book? But it's a lot easier on the beats of a story or the emotion of a movie.
That is so good. That's really good. And along that line is, if you're writing in a sci-fi, watch a sci-fi film. If you're watching a Western, watch a Western. There's something that gets you in the mode and the mood. If you've got a certain tone you're looking for, look for a movie with that same kind of tone, and you'll learn from it. I'm talking about, so that's good. I thank you. I actually, that's a good one for me, because I just wrote something for Lamplighter called Shipwrecked. And it's so exciting. It's 2 boys. They get roped in by this captain who talks about this life of adventure. They live in this tiny little Russian town called Archangel. It's a wooden town surrounded by mud. And it's like, that's pretty much what it is. It's like, there's nothing to do except the ships come in, right? And this captain, he needs a couple crew members. So he encourages the boys to come with him and on this, to find the Northwest Passage. And this captain's he's kind of a, robust kind of, I can do anything kind of guy. And they wind up shipwrecked on this island, this Arctic island. And with the helmsman, these 2 boys and the helmsman, they go on board the island, and the ship drifts away from them, the wind, because they got shipwrecked and all that. So anyway, they got to live on this Arctic island. So I need to go see like a movie like, what, Call the Wild or something like that. I need to see stuff like that will get me in the mood.
Yeah,
so that's good. That's good stuff.
The Gray is a good one.
What's that?
The Gray.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
Plane Crash and the Wolves.
Oh yeah, see stuff like that. I need that's going to help me, because there's wolves in this one too. Well, I kind of added the wolves because like those are always exciting. So, okay, well, I hope that helped you guys, and we're here to encourage you. Bob and I are professional writers. Do try this at home. Okay, they say our professionals don't try this at home. We want you to try this at home, because the world more than ever needs great stories. The world needs hope. Well, Bob, thank you for being with us. I learned a lot. I learned a lot just being around you. It's a lot of fun, and I learn a lot of just picked up a lot, and hope you've got to learn some stuff too as you're watching or listening. So, Bob, thank you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It was great, John.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Story Chat. If you want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions for John or feedback on the show, please email us at storychatwithjohn@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.